Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at NuScale power. It is time for another update, and today we'll be discussing the extension we have managed to form here within this area since the previous video, as well as the potential to actually form an internal 5-wave move to the upside within these levels. But before we get there, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we have been tracking this idea of a double 1-2-1-2 setup, where we would expect a third wave to follow here within the white interpretation. Now, since we actually broke below the area of support, it's not a very sustained break, so we are still tracking the white scenario, but we did start also covering the yellow interpretation, in which we would consider a more significant wave 1 top to be in place only here at the peak, and then we would actually track a first initial 5-wave move to the downside in a wave A. We would expect a correction in 3 waves within a wave B, and then at least another 5-wave move to the downside within the wave 2 to complete an even larger correction into the much deeper area of support in yellow between the $15.3 all the way down to the $3.8 level. And for that we have been tracking this internal area. Well, let me remove these first, but this internal area of resistance in yellow between the $24 all the way up to the $42.5 level, where as long as we stay below the 78.6% retracement, there is a significant risk that this structure could extend much deeper into this lower area of support, in the yellow interpretation. And this is assuming that we have actually bottomed within this initial 5-wave move to the downside. Even within the yellow interpretation, we could actually see further extension before we actually need to move higher, because within this movement down, we actually are able to track an internal 5-wave move to the downside, which is suggestive of even further continuation, as within this overall pattern, we are tracking a diagonal movement. Even if it is in the white scenario, even if it is within this larger ABC movement, within this 5-wave move to the downside, we have the potential to extend even lower, and in such a case, we would need to be prepared for such an idea. We would need to be prepared that we won't get to the levels of resistance, certainly before continuing lower. We may need to go lower before heading into the larger wave B correction, even within the yellow interpretation. And in that case, internally, we have been tracking again this idea of an extension, a possible extension within the wave 5, where this could have been a wave A down, we would have a B wave up, and then a C wave could still form to the downside. Now, it might be just a very shallow wave C. We may only form a marginally lower low within this wave 5, and it could still count as full. Now, fortunately, we are also able to track an internal ABC movement even within this area to the downside, even within this wave 5, which can allow for a completion of the structure to be in place. But realistically, I could also be tracking this as an extension of the wave 3. This could have been an ABC movement within the larger wave 3. We would still need the 4th and the 5th to have the full 5-wave count to the downside, which doesn't mean that we need to build that, but it means that we can see extensions lower, and we don't absolutely need, even in the bearish scenario, to get to this area of resistance. Now, within this structure, we have been tracking levels of resistance for such a wave B, and we have only managed to briefly break above it. We have only managed to stay above this level for a couple of hours before succumbing to the pressure and heading back into it. And it is already a good signal, a good sign that we did manage to break it, but I would like to see a more sustained break before I would actually consider it clearly done, that this structure would not extend within an ABC movement to the downside. And for that, I would also like to see this white interpretation manage to follow through even further, where we are tracking a potential initial 5-wave move to the upside that could be a wave 1 part of the large wave 3, could be a wave A part of the larger wave B in the yellow interpretation. Doesn't really matter at this point, because after we actually get the initial 5-wave move to the upside, we can track a 3-wave correction, where with high likelihood we could expect continuation in at least another 5-wave move to the upside, whether that is into the area of resistance only, whether that is a much stronger and larger wave 3 that could take us even to new highs. It would definitely be a somewhat interesting trade setup, and I say only somewhat because it is still on such a small time frame. On this time frame, we can not even reliably consider that this is the third wave complete. We could even consider that the third wave would actually still be extending, and then it could realistically be only an ABC movement, something like that, where a correction could be complete, where a top could be forming, and we wouldn't necessarily have the same probabilities as if we did a similar structure within a larger time frame. Yeah, something like this in this area, something like this in a 5-way move to the upside. Now, with that said, in the previous video, we were looking for continuation higher, and we didn't need necessarily extensions within the wave 3, but we needed to hold the area of support. And however, we do seem to have got an extension. Now, I am tracking this as an extension of the wave 3, although, as I mentioned a moment ago, this wave 3 could still be ongoing. And in such a case, we can actually note that within the wave 4 correction, we have gotten here perfectly to the 38.2% retracement, which is in fact the ideal target for a wave 4. We did that in a 3-wave move, and from that point on, we actually continued to the upside, but it seems to be within a 3-wave pattern in the initial wave up, which means that we should consider that this is very likely going to form a larger ending diagonal to the upside. Now, since we did manage to extend so high, I am decently optimistic that this could have been already the 1-2 setup, and while this could be the wave 3, we did get here to the ideal target, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Yeah, we did even get to the next level, the 161.8% extension. But it could also be just the wave A of the larger wave 3, and for that reason I will need to allow a slightly deeper area of support than necessarily expected for a wave 4 correction, yeah, in case we get within this wave 5 to the upside, a 1, 2, 3, 4th and the 5th. But in any case, I would like to see still at least an additional high within this area before I consider this pattern complete, yeah. Doing so would also give us a much more sustained break above the resistance levels for the orange interpretation for an extension lower. Yeah, it would also improve the probabilities of extending higher within a follow-up structure, even if after this wave to the upside is done, we find a much more larger retracement, yeah, into a much deeper area of support. But for now, I won't be looking for the wave 2 correction just yet, because within this structure, the only thing I could really track is something like a WXY, where this would need to be considered an overshoot, which is not a 5th wave. It's not the 5th wave that we would expect within this area. And for now, yeah, I would like to see still continuation higher. Now, again, this is expected to be at least another wave up. We could see an extension of the wave 3, but firstly, for the wave 4, I would expect to hold at least the 61.8% retracement. If we don't reverse immediately, we may allow a slightly deeper retracement all the way down to the $20 level, but below that, it would already be a strong signal that this is not succeeding as a wave 4, and we may see still an extension within the wave 3 in the interpretation that this could be an ABC movement, in which case we can allow a slightly deeper area of support, as I mentioned a moment ago. We can then allow the 78.6% retracement to be the last level before we consider a more significant failure within this overall pattern to the upside, and that we may have formed a significant top within this wave B in orange. Yeah, I would be watching here the $19.4 level. But ideally, we hold the $20 level and we look for a 5th wave and consider that we may form an initial 5-wave move to the upside. That could be interesting for a potential follow-up correction in a 3-wave and a trade setup for the next 5-wave move up. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.